Every traveler remembers their first international trip. That moment where your passport gets its very first stamp. That moment where, all of a sudden, the world feels bigger. For me, that moment happened in Cuba.
What's up, people? As promised, coming back at you with my take on Cuba, which was my first international experience in the country that pretty much expanded my mind and changed everything, changed my perspective on America, and honestly, it kind of changed my perspective on life in general. Um, Honestly, it's kind of hard to put a lot of it into words. It was kind of almost like you had to be there type of thing, but I'm gonna do my best to try to paint the picture of what this did for me and kind of give you some intel on the country that I'm sure still applies to this day because I had some friends that traveled there fairly recently, and according to what they reported, a lot of it is the same as when I had visited. But no, like when I tell you, like when I landed in Cuba, first of all, it was like a step back in time. You know what I'm saying? Like I was it felt like honestly I was back in the 90s because all of a sudden you didn't see people walking around with cell phones. People still had house phones. um, you didn't see a lot of modern cars. You know what I'm saying? You were seeing a lot of older model cars. you know and people just outside. You see children outside playing, something you don't really see no more. And but the country just so beautiful. The sun, at least for my trip, the sun was always out. You know what I'm saying? People, just out walking, doing their thing, taking care of business, taking care of errands or whatever, or they out partying somewhere, on the beach, near the Malecon, or whatever. But it was beautiful. But when I got there, I'm like, okay, this is different. This is different. And I'm looking around the locals, very beautiful people, all shades and colors, and whatever shade or tone of skin you can think of, it's all out there. You know what I'm saying? I don't care, dark skin, light skin, white Cuban, what I'm saying, high yellow, I don't care, it's out there. but but yeah, what I'm saying, I'm looking around, I'm like, all right, well, not in the States anymore. You know what I'm saying? And at the time I went, they had just got 3G out there. Like they didn't have no internet. So that was different in itself. You know what I'm saying? You could whip out, you could take your phone out and you could like record a video or whatever, but there was no going to the internet and posting it to Facebook or Instagram or nothing like that straight. You had to wait till you got to some good Wi-Fi and then post it. And at the time, the average person didn't just have Wi-Fi, you know what I'm saying, just freely like that. You had to go to like a Wi-Fi station, and then you had to give them a little money, maybe like $1 or two, and you could use the Wi-Fi for like an hour. And then that's it. Basically, that's when you do all the stuff that you need to do all your posting, what I'm saying, respond to messages or whatever. Because once you was done with that Wi-Fi, you were truly off the grid. You were truly off the grid, and and that's honestly still kind of how it is over there. If you try to use data out there, like you're going to struggle. Um, it may be choppy in some areas, but for the most part, it doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? You have to get to some Wi-Fi. You have to be at a business that has Wi-Fi, or you have to use one of those Wi-Fi stations that I was talking about. So Cuba definitely forces you to live in the moment. I'm gonna tell you that right now. It forces you to live in the moment. And so, so I'm with a cousin of mine at the time, and we're walking the streets, we're doing our thing. First of all, we stayed in downtown Havana near the Malecon, and the Malecon is basically just like this body of water. It's like a little barrier. Then you have the water where there's like a bunch of waves coming in, and then of course, on the other side of the barrier, you have all the folks and civilization and all these buildings or whatever. But you walk alongside the Malecon, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. In the nighttime, you don't want to walk too close because the waves start getting high, the tides start coming in. You walk a little too close, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna get soaked. You're gonna get soaked. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta be careful when you're walking alongside the Malecon. And you know, walking through Havana, the people were just so like just super friendly. Like, you know, you're getting it first of all, and this is the part that really, like broke me in right here. Like walking the streets, people approaching you all the time. They obviously, they see that you're American. More so, it was my cousin. For me, at the time, I was rocking. You know, what I'm saying I just had like a low fade. So a lot of times they would mistake me as being Cuban, unless until they heard my American accent. And after that, that was a wrap. Now I'm a gringo. But they saw my cousin and they saw that okay, he's obviously American. So the question we would get all the time was, "Where are you from? Where are you from?" There was always some English speaking Cuban walking up to us. "Where are you from?" And I just got it got pretty annoying. And that was a part of international traveling that I still to this day like can't really get used to. So when people see that you're from America, they attack. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you from the land of opportunity. Your currency is stronger. You in my country as a tourist doing your thing. Yeah, I want a piece of you. You know what I'm saying? So, people would run up on us and ask us, where you from? That was always the starter because they're gonna go into the BS. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna go into their sales pitch or try to relate to you somehow to get you to come to their business or whatever. So yeah, that took some getting used to, and it got to the point where we were answering honestly. We would tell them we from Atlanta or whatever. Sometimes the time he would say Canada because he did spend some years in Canada. So he figured it would give him an edge saying he was from Canada instead of Atlanta, Georgia, and what do you call it, in the South or whatever. But it didn't really help. They didn't care. They was like Canada, U.S. All right, it all sounds the same to us. You from what I'm saying, you still from the land of opportunity, Canada, U.S. We don't care. You got some money on you. And so like, yeah, people were trying to like, we had street performers coming up to us. We had people running up telling us there was a cigar festival and it was the last day. Like it was just like there was always a cigar festival going on or some cigar event, because they know that Americans want authentic Cuban cigars. So that's they always gonna pitch it to you. And it was, no matter what the event was, it was always the last day. So that got old real quick. But other than that, I'm talking about some cons. It was cool. I mean, you get used to it. You just kind of walk around with the expectation, like people are going to approach you. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times when you're in these situations, you got to walk with a purpose. You got to walk with a purpose. You know what I'm saying? Just like no, thank you, no gracias. You know what I'm saying? So we was doing a lot of that, and then sometimes we had fun with it, and people kept asking us that age old question, "Where you from?" We're like, "We from Wakanda." You know what I'm saying? We started making stuff up. Even though we did have one person though was we told him we were from Wakanda and he didn't get it. Obviously he didn't see Black Panther, but he still was thinking that he could try to like pull a fast one on us or fool us a little bit. So he was like, "Oh, Wakanda. Oh, I have a cousin from Wakanda." And we just looking like, "Man, please come on, get out of here, man." We just kept walking. It was like, "Oh yeah, okay." Obviously he don't know he don't know that we're obviously the ones being tongue in cheek and like we don't want to fool with this guy. So we keep going. Um, and then with a lot of the locals, like sometimes like you just speak or whatever, and it's just the fact that you're American. They stop and they're just like, "Yo, oh wow," because they not really getting tourists like that. Not on a large scale, not like say like a Dominican Republic or Colombia or like even like Kenya. Like Cuba really doesn't get a whole lot of tourists like that. And honestly, like they just started getting tourists. What was it back in 2006? Well, they opened up in 2006, but they wasn't really like getting tourists like that. So, when we were out there, we didn't see many Americans like that. Uh, we saw like one or two here and there, and like when we would go out for the nightlife, like be in a club or something. We would meet some cats from Europe. But it was very far and few between. Other than that, though, like food and drinks, dirt cheap. You know what I'm saying? You can get you a nice mojito for $1 or two off on the street. Um, so needless to say, we were pretty lit every day. Um, and the Havana Club, that you got to try to, that Havana Club rum. Just go to any liquor store, any market, get you a bottle of Havana Club rum. I don't think it's no more than like 10, $15. Um, and that, and it'll get you right. And for me personally, I'll say for us personally, me and my cousin at the time, we didn't get hungover off of it. It was cool. It was off of that Havana Club rum. It was good vibes. It was good vibes. Um, and then going back to the locals, a lot of them were friendly. Um, that, and this is the part that really got me, like seeing people's reaction to us. Going back to that, we'll be walking, and let's say, like, for example, I was walking one time, and there was a couple of locals coming. There was a couple of ladies coming, and I just said hola. I didn't stop. I didn't try to stop them. I didn't say como estas. I didn't ask them how they were doing. Like, can I talk to you for a second? I just said hola, and they stopped dead in their tracks, and they were like hola, and then like they stood there like they were expecting us to keep the interaction going, because they're like, we don't see a lot of you. So so that was interesting. Like that right there, I'm like, man, like they are really like taken with the fact that there's Americans in this country, because like I'm from Atlanta. I don't picture myself walking downtown Atlanta and just saying hello to somebody and they just stop dead in their tracks and like, oh my God, like I never seen the likes of you before. Like it's that's not gonna happen downtown Atlanta. I mean, maybe it could. I don't know, depending on who you are. Maybe some celebrity or big wig or something. But uh, no, it's not. It's not common here. In Atlanta, unless you were somebody. But in Cuba, it was like that. It was like the average experience. You know what I'm saying? It's always somebody stopping you, somebody running up on you. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that was a eye opener in itself. And then, yeah, them folks know how to party out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to see a lot of performances. Um, got to what we did. We did a couple of like live shows where they played instruments, had dancers out. Um, it was like interactive. It was pretty fun. We did some art festivals. Checked out Old Havana. They had all types of characters walking around. Sometimes you see some gypsies walking around. And they'll have some cigars on them, selling to Cubans. Um, and I took some pictures with the gypsies. Uh, we took like we dedicated one day of our trip to go out. It was about 2 to 3 hours out from Havana. It was like an area called Viñales Valley, and it's basically where they um, had like a tobacco farm, and then there was like a lot of like nature things to do out there. You could see like these big hills. I can't remember the name of the area exactly, but they had like performances over there. You got what I'm saying, you could see a lot of nature over there. You could do a tobacco farm tour, and then they'll sit there and they'll roll you some authentic Cuban cigars, and you have the option to purchase them or whatever. And I think I got like 20 to 25 cigars, and I want to pay like $100 for all of them. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Pretty cool. So keep that in mind if you want to dedicate a day or two, a day or so just toward excursions or going out somewhere. Yeah, go out to Viñales Valley. You know what I'm saying? Visit that tobacco farm. Um, and if I get any specific information, I'll try to post it. You know what I'm saying? So y'all can have a direct point of reference. But yeah, that made up a lot of my trip. Like that'll kind of give you, I guess that kind of gives you an idea of you know what my experience was. And the people reacting to you like, oh my God, like, oh, this is an American. The food being cheap, uh scenery beautiful, the people were beautiful. Just putting you in a position where you just really had to live in the moment. Your phone wasn't out like that unless you were taking a quick photo or video, but you're putting it back right away because you can't get on the internet, you can't get on social media, so you have to live in the moment. And that was the beautiful thing about Cuba. um, and after I left that country, and I tell you that the level of depression I had getting back on that plane back to America, woo, second to none. But yeah, and that's what made me want to, see what the rest of the world had to offer. So, that pretty much was the catalyst that kind of shaped me into the person that I am today. I've had many, experience since then. So I'll be happy to share more of them with you next time. Holla.